All right, welcome again to Social Distillation, the submarine still of the internet, where we attempt to drop the beat and pour white lightning straight onto your brain. What are we talking about today, Samo?
Well, it is our social episode, but we are talking relationships. We are two guys that you are the more conservative relationship type, and I've got lots of ideas, and I am studying psychology. So hopefully we've got some good insights for you. And
Hmm.
I think we're gonna start where we left off last time, which was awkward relationships, because we were watching a Korean dating show on Eternal Singles, and yeah, you went awkward. Watch Better Late Than Single,
Yep.
and yeah, it
It's
is.
it's the Korean version essentially of Love on the Spectrum, but with the added awkwardness of the we talked a little bit, last time about cultural differences. There are some serious cultural differences, and yet people are people, and so there are still a lot of um sex differences, cross-sex mind reading, these kinds of things that we talk about that are the same. They might
Mhm.
be expressed differently because you have a different culture, but the foundation is still people. People are people.
hmm Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and say this at the beginning. Spoiler alert to if you do watch the show, because we're probably going to
Hmm.
make some points based on things that happened. Because the first episode we did on this was all kind of the lead up,
Yeah.
and this one is actually probably going into the initial phase to the entering relationship phase, and then probably we'll go ahead and keep going on to the long-term relationship phase at some point. So now we're getting into more relationship than just
Hmm.
initial attraction.
So if you watch these shows because you actually care about the drama of it and don't want to be spoiled, then watch if you like these kinds of things and come back later. For me, I wouldn't really care if I knew who ended up with who, if at all, because to me, the more interesting thing is the journey, the how did you get here or not get here, as the case may be. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about because our one of our big meta criticisms of the show that we've said before is much like why we rant and not, people with big platforms, including Jillian Michaels now, talk bad about The Biggest Loser is because it's ostensibly about helping these people with a serious problem better themselves. With Biggest Loser, it's physically. With Love on the Spectrum, it is. uh, some of it was physical because one guy in particular, dude, you need to lose some weight for to be healthier, but also to look healthier and to look better. You know, consciously and subconsciously, you look at someone who's not in shape and you go, that's not a good mate
hmm
because consciously, I'm not physically attracted to them. Unconsciously, that's not a good mate because they're not healthy. I need a healthy pairing to further my genes.
hmm
But mostly it was the psychological of how do you get over the hangups that are keeping you from either getting a date in the first place or getting that second date, which a few of these people had been on, that had been on, mostly blind dates, dates other people had set up for them. And so they might have been on a handful of dates, but it never led to a second date. And that's why they were eternal singles. Um, and I could kind of speak to that because before I met my wife, I had a handful of girlfriends, but they were never serious and they never lasted that long. And then I tripped and fell into over 20 years of marriage. So yeah, it worked out for me on accident. And it's the post hoc trying to figure that out that I think helps me look at other people and go, yeah, okay, that's here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to stop doing.
Yeah, and see, I was the opposite. I was the awkward kid in high school and was basically, I could classify as the eternal single, even though it
Hmm.
was basically 20 years old when I tripped and fell into my first wife, which was my first real girlfriend. And then That didn't work, obviously, for very obvious reasons. That's not the best plan unless you live in a small farming village where there's only like five people to choose from.
Hmm.
But then after that is when I caught stride, and then there were many relationships that formed. Some short term, some a little longer. Some a couple years, some a week. It was it was a different experience. So we're coming at this from two different perspectives where I get where they are in the beginning, but now that I know better, it's like, oh my God, just put yourself out there. Now you were brought up Biggest Loser and some physically, and I had just listened to a guy, Dr. Orion Taraban, and he was talking about how internet dating advice is so bad. And we're going to give you the
Mm.
opposite of this because they ask women what they want and then they tell men what the women say. And all the women say, I want someone who's kind. I want someone who's generous. I want someone who's all of these things. And he lays it out straight. And I'm going to lay out straight for you too, because I already knew this before listening to him. But now we've got a person with doctor on the name saying it is they want all of those things from a person they're attracted to.
Hmm.
And one of the things, what phenomenon we might be seeing now, and I've heard some other people talk about this, is the dating pool is nobody's less and less people are dating now. And we all have a standard. And that is not dependent on how we are, but the standard of human being, because of potato chips and ho-hos and Twinkies, is lowering from, the average, if we say five is average, the middle of the bell curve, to a three. But they still want a five because we're human and we want what we want. And so people are not dating according to where they are. They're dating according to where they want, but less and less people are where you want. And so that might be contributing to the lack of dating because just the standard of people is slowly deteriorating and we haven't adjusted our preferences based on that. So yeah, Biggest Loser actually would help with dating because there's a big difference between being 500 pounds and funny and 250 pounds and funny, right?
And the to reiterate, the problem with The Biggest Loser is that they're cheating and they're taking shortcuts for the show. They're not
Hmm.
actually setting these people up for long-term success and for health. A couple months back, I actually pulled up an article that talked about, and again, Jillian Michaels had left and was flaming the show for you were giving these people amphetamines and
I did not
other
hear that
things.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was in that article where Jillian Michaels was kind of blowing the whistle on why she left because it wasn't healthy. They weren't actually, it was all about the number on the scale,
Hmm.
you know, and and for you know for the relationship thing, it is all about the numbers in your black book. Okay, well, neither one of those things are good.
Mm.
Okay. And this is where this show, I think, and here's where we're going to get into the spoiler territory right off the bat, because I liked the ending of the show compared to another Korean dating show that my wife got me hooked on and we've watched together, which is in that one, you have to pick someone at the end. Everyone picks someone.
Hmm.
And if you match up, then you leave together. Not that it matters because she's actually looked up and of the 3 seasons of that show with 6 or 7 of each gender, so a dozen or so people for each season, there's only been one relationship that came out of that actually lasted past the show.
So there's two more seasons of the one we watched.
No, this is the
Oh,
one that is basically Korean Temptation Island, which is a hilarious thing to say because it is hilariously tame compared to, that kind of a Western dating
hmm.
reality show. It's much more wholesome, even for the, hey, let's get a bunch of hot people and put them on a deserted island together. This one, Better Late Than Single, when you went in to make your final choice, you didn't have to make a choice. It
Hmm.
was pick someone or just leave.
And
And a
a
lot of them
very
just left.
large number left. Yeah, yeah.
And you know what? Why not? If there's not someone there for you, if you are not feeling a connection, then all right, try again next time.
Hmm.
And that is what makes me think that the two that did actually couple up, we'll get into that. At least one of them, I think, is real, and one of them at least has a chance
Hmm.
because there was the option to just leave alone. And then hopefully, now there were a couple of people I was rooting for and going, why aren't you two talking? Why can't you two,
Hmm.
get to know each other a little more? And again, part of that is editing, which is one of the frustrating things with reality TV. So there is that caveat. So, for instance, another reality show that my wife got me hooked on that used to be good is uh, the British Bake Off. Okay, and something you'll notice is they do a 2 day challenge and then they're judged and someone is eliminated. Well, they wear the same outfit when they come in both days of that weekend. Why? So that the producers and the editors can edit things out of order to tell the better dramatic story.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the late Rush Limbaugh, when reality shows were first getting popular, his critique of them is they're not reality. It's the only difference between scripted television and reality TV is the writers are non-union.
Mm.
And
Yeah. Well,
he wasn't wrong.
and back to the show we're watching, I think is six or seven. You episode 6 or 7, you're kind of rooting for a couple, and then when they're starting to break, they show you clips of a date that was 3 episodes before, and you're like, oh, I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
That would
Mm-hmm.
have been nice information then. I wouldn't have been rooting for this couple. And you understand why he's leaving, but it made for better dramatic TV because they wanted to get you rooting for hair girl and that
Mm-hmm.
guy. They wanted to get you going, oh, this is the first real couple to come out of it. This is great. And then you get a clip from the date they had 2 days before and the things she was saying. And I'm going to get into that when it comes to ladies. You're going to benefit from this because the internet is lying to you. But it's you get those clips and you're like, oh, that's why he's making this decision. That's why he's changing his mind because of these conversations that they had on their date. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Made for better TV. But at the same time, I felt betrayed by the editors because I was like, I was rooting for them. And that
Yeah.
and I was rooting for the other girl that he ended up with, but I was rooting for her just to find somebody, you know?
Yes.
But then you get clips of her from before where he's helping her and that's why they made such a good couple is because they actually started as friends on the show.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't friends before the show, but he was being a friend to her and she was actually locked in on another guy and he turned out to be a big dud when it came to her and he says he purposefully sabotaged that one. And that was actually good for her because then she was able to drop off of that and get off that little obsession and be receptive to the guy who was being her friend. And he realized, oh my gosh, we got so much in common. And now we get the clips from the other date and be like, oh, well, we don't have our values in line. And that was his thing. Our values are not in line. And then
Mm-hmm.
you get those clips and you're like, oh, they're not. They're not at all. And it actually I think that was the best pairing of the whole show, and I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was rooting for her from the beginning because she not only because of her daddy issues, like you said, I gravitate towards those girls, of course, because that's just I don't know, that's just my pattern. But the
Well, especially with her, as you find
she
out,
was genuine. Yeah.
it wasn't just, oh, I didn't have a good father. It was me and my mom would lock ourselves in my room until my brother came home so that we would have a buffer between
Hmm.
our dad. Otherwise, he would beat us. I was like, oh, okay, this isn't just a rough childhood. This is physical abuse.
Hmm.
And so
Well,
you
and I guess
reflexively
let
want
me add
to
a backdrop.
protect.
These eternal singles weren't just like you said, love on the spectrum. There was one that was seriously autistic,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
but they were there are barriers to dating that, and they covered a wide spectrum of barriers to dating. And hers was lack of trust in men. She
Hmm.
always treated every guy she went on a date with as if they're going to betray her. And you can understand after you get the backstory of father figure, right? And that relationship budded because he started taking care of her from a friend standpoint. You know,
Well,
she
let
cut her
me.
hand and all that stuff, and he was
So
he
let's
was
get to the
there.
pink-haired girl in a second, which is good advice for women, not just from us, but from my wife's perspective on it. But let's stay on the the abused girl who became a young woman then with trust issues. I had a concern there, and I wasn't sure because I you had said early on when you were watching, you texted me that you were rooting for her, and I was wondering if you were going to be satisfied with how things turned out with her because one of the balancing acts when okay, so we used physical as an analogy a lot. And I know I need to lift because I need strength in general to help with my chronic pain. But because of my chronic pain, I have to be careful not to veer too far over. I've got to stay in, this lane that can sometimes be rather narrow. Same thing when you're working on your psychological issues is you
Hmm.
need to be conscious of I have this problem, I have this issue, which for her was abusive father, physically, verbally abusive father, can't trust men. Well, now here comes along someone who not only is nice to her, but she says later when she started to see him as more than just a friend, is she had cut herself while they were all in the kitchen cooking and he was the one to take care of her. So you grew up with a father who physically abused you, and now you have someone physically taking care of an injury. I worry that you jump in too hard too fast because of that.
Yeah, and this is one of those we all have our we all have our reasons for making all decisions, but relationships being one of the top two that you're going to make in your entire life, right? Your profession and your relationship are probably going to be the top two decisions you make in your entire life. I actually don't think I think it matters in an awareness standpoint, but it doesn't matter in the fact that that is what you look for. We look for people for all different reasons. If your deal breaker is they have to be tall, if you marry someone short, then that's always going to be something that bothers you. Now, where it can be a problem is if she transfers some of those feelings onto anything he does.
Mm.
So, like, say he raises his voice to her because whatever reason, because we're going to do that at some point in our in a long-term relationship, right? And she transfers that to the abuse. Now he's can she balance that? Can she say he raised his voice at me, but he's not going to hurt me? That's where it becomes a problem. And we don't know. We don't know because we
Yeah.
don't have the follow up and you're getting clips from a show and it's
Well, so that transitions us to the pink-haired girl and the problem with I think many young women or to even older women, because our generation, boy, you've seen plenty of this just in your social life and work life of the as you've brought it up before, the I'm just not happy anymore.
yeah.
And
Well, it
so that
was it was the conversation on priorities because she asked him what
mhm,
his major priority was, and he said
yes.
his first answer was family and my loved ones and everything. And he asked her the same question back, "What is your first priority?" And she
Hold
said,
on a second.
Me."
Yeah, but I wanted to preempt you there because I thought this was funny. Is I've mentioned before this other dating show called Singles Inferno, where this was kind of my first introduction into what you talk about, and we've talked about it, and now I'm kind of obsessed with the idea that women are coalitional, and so they read social cues and nonverbals a lot better than men do. This is why, from an evolutionary psych standpoint, this is why. And men are more hierarchical because we go on the hunts and we go fight the battles. Well, very early on, my wife pegged her as, oh, I'll bet she grew up rich and is a spoiled princess.
Hmm.
And sure enough, you saw it a little bit, but then when they cut back to where those two kind of separated, where the guy was like, "Ooh, I don't think you're it for me after all," is the way he kept saying it was, "We're not on the same wavelength."
Hmm.
And that was it. Is she kept
And he
saying,
did use the word values a few times.
"Yes,
Yeah. We have different
my
values. Yeah.
for her, her values, her being true to herself was all about herself. Was, am I happy? Am I doing the things I want to do? Am I accomplishing the things I want to? So, in other words, I think what he saw or intuited is, and he was very upfront with, I'm here, excuse me, I'm here because I want a serious long term relationship. That's what I'm looking for. I think you just want a boyfriend to have a boyfriend,
Someone to
and
make
you
you
want
happy.
that boyfriend to be your sidekick.
Hmm.
That's not going to work for me. And in fact, here's the problem, girls. That's not going to work for most guys.
Mm-mm.
The guy that's going to work for
And
is going to be a doormat that you're going to get bored with eventually.
yeah, this is the budding of the I'm just not happy anymore divorce.
Exactly.
Because I
This
mean, well, this is just dopamine in general. This is human nature because something that makes you happy is going to be something that will slowly make you less and less happy. That's just the nature of things. If you eat your favorite food, but then you eat it every day, you're going to like it less and less and less. If you meet that guy that gives you that dopamine hit that makes you happy, but there's nothing else locking you in that long-term relationship, eventually those chemicals are going to subside and he's not going to be enough. You need something greater than what they do for you.
Yeah.
And
And this is
narcissists prey on this. This is why they love bomb in the beginning because they come in love bombing and they lock you in because it makes you happy. And then they start gaslighting you into their bidding, into validating them. So they come in to validate you. So ultimately you become their validation.
okay. Well, that leads me to something else in my notes, not where I was about to go, but the other couple, the other couple that ended up together, and I didn't think they would, and my wife was really annoyed that they did because
Because
she
of
really
how
thought,
bad he was fumbling the
yep,
last whole
yep,
3 episodes. Again, what
what,
what was editing too though? Were they trying to
yes.
make you think that she wasn't going to pick him and so it's a big surprise that she did or but at the same time, editing aside, the things that they did show were pretty deal breaking, I think to me.
Yes, my wife was very upset that she didn't just put her picture down and leave without choosing someone. She's like, just leave, honey. Just you
Or
can
at
do
least in
better.
those last few days give some of those other guys a chance.
That too
Yeah.
is one of the things that was a head scratcher to me in general is in a situation like this, don't target fixate. It's and you know, part of this may have been who these people are, what their background was, and how socially awkward they were. In Singles Inferno, the whole shtick of the show is these are super hot people. Well, that also means most of them are also quite popular.
Hmm.
Okay, so they have dated, they have had relationships, they have had people pursue them, they have experience dealing with these things. And so some of them on that show are much better about not just saying, but doing, hey, when someone asks, are you interested in me? I'm interested in everybody, or I'm interested in several people. I don't know yet because I don't know anyone yet. I'm
Hmm.
trying to get to know everyone, or I'm trying to get to know these several people so that so that I can actually know if I'm attracted to them or
Yeah,
not.
and let's explore one of the phenomenon from the show and see if we can glean any real life lessons from it. Is one of the issues that happened on that show was, and for two completely different reasons, if we look at male female differences, four ladies locked in on one guy,
Mm-hmm.
and 3 guys locked in on one girl. And the 4 ladies that locked in on one guy was the one who was the most genuine and serious and wanted to like find one person. And the three guys that locked in on the one ladies, it became a competition between them. And
Yep.
so the it was, had you just kept your options open for the first 3 days or so instead of locking in from the beginning, the one that ended up together, the one that I said we were rooting for, pivoted. Both of them pivoted from their initial locked in first choice because they got to know each other. And the 3 guys and that one girl, they never got to know any of the other girls.
And in fact, one of the things that guy said, Jong Mok was the guy's name, is that I thought was very emotionally mature because it he doesn't have a lot of experience and it takes a lot of maturity to recognize this, which is he said this person, the cute pink-haired girl, is this is who I am romantically attracted to. Subtext, this is who I'm sexually attracted to.
Hmm.
That's what a guy means because consciously and subconsciously, that's what we're looking for is you are sexually
Well,
attracted
that's
to
the
me
whole
and
point
want
of
to
initial
meet.
attraction, right? You
Exactly.
have things that visually or olfactory senses, things that come in, how they smell, how they look, maybe their smile, maybe
Hmm.
maybe if you can see some personality in their face that comes out, that all of those things are the initial attraction. But
Exactly.
then you get to know them. That's what dating is
Exactly.
for.
And and so he says half-ish way through the series is I always thought that's how you started a relationship. I always thought that's what a relationship was. But now I have this other person who I'm just really comfortable with. We talk and it's just natural. It's friendly. It's comfortable. And comfortable is a dirty word to a lot of people when it comes to a relationship. It's, oh, where's the spark? Where's the butterflies? Where the you brought it up. People, that's dopamine and that don't last.
Hmm.
I mean, they're still, and you could see it when they did get together, and the panel that's supposed to be their coaches were freaking out just because like they touched fingers, they like held a finger,
Yeah.
and me and my wife were laughing because
It wasn't even
we're
holding
like,
hands. They like pinky fingered it. Yeah.
yep, and we're she had seen a meme of that. And we're like, oh, I wonder if that's where this came from. It was a meme of the difference between an American dating show and it's, two people bang and hey, can you keep it down? I'm trying to sleep in here. And then, ooh, our fingers touched, and
Well, except it
and
escalated quickly after that.
it
But
escalated very quickly. But the point being, you could see there were sparks there. There was attraction. There was even that you know, exciting awkwardness that comes along from those first moments. That was still there, but it was real because it was also comfortable and complementary to each other.
hmm.
And it's interesting that you point out how there were 4 locked in and that it was probably because he was the most genuine and the most serious about a serious
Well, there's a
relationship.
lot of phenomenon going on there. So I
But
think that
but
was
hold
part
on.
of it. I think that was
The
part of it.
reason
I
I
think he,
laughed at that though was because throughout the whole show, my wife kept yelling at the TV, "Why is everyone obsessed with this guy? What has he got going for him? I don't get it."
well, I'm going to say partly because he was one of the least awkward. There's that. Uh, and I think actually his dating problems probably revolved around the fact that I think he went into a dating situation looking for forever. And you know how scary that gets
That's
right
true.
away. When you read that from the other side of the room, you're like, "Oh my gosh, the stage 5
Well,
clinger,"
okay,
right?
pause a second there because yeah, there is an example of that with another guy who self-sabotaged because he wasn't just so Jean-Marc was I'm looking for something serious. I want someone I can connect with for a long-term relationship. And that's basically all it was. This guy who has the very engineer tismy mindset and it's understandable because the guy's a med school student. Okay. So that's a certain kind of mentality. And when he did that with the girl he was interested in, he freaked her the heck out because it wasn't just, I'm looking for a long term serious relationship. It was, oh no, I have this all planned out. You're going to do this and I'm going to do this. And on days where I have this schedule, I can meet you for lunch and then I'll go to skin. And I was like, dude, take a breath. You could see I can't read social cues, and I could see she's freaking out, isn't she, honey? And my wife's sitting there nodding. Yep, yep,
Hmm.
yep. So there's a difference between the hey, I'm looking for something serious and oh, let's have a serious relationship, and here's how we're gonna do it.
Yeah, it was that guy, he tried to the end too. He was one of the three guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He tried to the very end and he got pathetic. I'm sorry. He was like, why do you not like me? What can I do better? What can I please guys, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Please, please don't do that. Just be better. Don't be like, what can I do for you? What can I be like for you? Oh no, just improve yourself, and if it's not her thing, then find somebody else, okay? Uh but yeah, uh on the four girls locking in on the one guy, there's a couple things going on. One of them, I mean, he was one of the least awkward. He was a decent talker for considering where
Mm-hmm.
these people come from. He was very very nice. I mean, the girl with the cutting her hand, that wasn't the only girl he helped like that. He would get up and help them up when they were getting off the couch, or he would get up and do something for them so they didn't have to do it all the time. So he was just a kind of, I would call it a good host. Like if you went to somebody's house and they were doing all the things to make you more comfortable in their house, that's kind of where the way he was with all of these people. He was a great host, so that's kind of attractive in its own mind because it's the guy that opens the door for you, right? I mean, I this is the one thing that did bother me about the show because none of the guys opened the girls' doors, and I'm like, I thought you were a polite society. Come on,
Mm-hmm.
but apparently it's not a thing there. Apparently because they were so formal and everything, but they didn't do that. Not even like the front door to the restaurant or anything. They just went. Uh, but the other phenomenon going on is the obsession these four girls had with him.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just that they picked him and said, "Oh, he's my initial attraction" or whatever, which actually he wasn't for some of them. But the longer it went on, and the more attention he paid to the two girls, the one he ultimately ended up with, but also Pink Arrow Girl, the more the other girls were obsessed with him.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the biggest attractors to females is how other females are attracted to the man. And I think that kept the ball rolling and keeping it going with these other two girls with uh uh I keep wanting to call her Yum Yum, but the one the autistic guy liked, but said, "Oh, go ahead and chase your dreams or whatever" with the other guy because he realized she liked another guy. He was her initial pick, and had he just kept going, she could have had a matchup. Had he just actually started doing what he was doing near the end and being funny and all of those things,
Mm-hmm.
because he kind of came into his own near the end where he was making
Well,
jokes and cracking jokes and
exactly. Let's talk about Supertism guy for a minute because
well, but let me finish this point
oh,
because it's
okay.
about the locking in. These a lot of at least two of the four women locked into this guy because the other two women were his interest, and
Yeah.
they completely shut everybody else out. And there's
Yeah.
six other guys there that were candidates, and including for
Eh,
one of them that really, really, really liked her
yes. And so for the pink-haired girl, it's understandable because
because
the
the
person
dates they went on, and
the
yeah,
dates
yeah.
they went on, he expressed interest in her, and then all of a sudden he's shifting to someone else. And so one, there's the oh wait a minute, I thought we had something, but also I think there was, as my wife pointed out, rich girl spoiled princess. She's not used to getting rejected,
Hmm.
not used to not getting what she wanted. But for the other two, they had options that they never even explored.
Options who were very into them.
Yeah, and maybe, as I said, maybe those options don't work out. Maybe you get to know them and you're like,
Or
nah, no
or
thanks.
maybe they
But
did explore them and they just didn't end up in the final cut,
well,
which
yeah,
is
and
something we
that's the
don't know.
frustrating
Yeah,
thing.
that's
Yeah.
something we don't know.
All right, so now I do want to talk about. So the reason I keep calling this guy Super Tizamy guy is he's the first person you meet on the show when they're introducing the concept of the show, and this was where I immediately said, "Wait, is this Korean Love on the Spectrum?" to my wife, who had heard from her friends that, oh, hey, there's a new Korea dating show you should watch, and and he checks like every box to be on the spectrum. You
Hmm.
know, doesn't make eye contact, very stiff, so awkward in movement, especially when he's around people. He's a uh, he's a computer guy, so he's got that engineer brain. But also his lips barely moved when he talked when you
Hmm.
first meet him. And this boggles my mind. I don't understand why they do this. It's all about content for these streaming services. You could have had twice as much content. This was 10 episodes. It easily could have been 20 if they would have showed us more of the coaching.
Mm.
He's one of the few that you actually see them working with him. And it's things like they sent him to a speech therapist to learn to open his mouth and move his lips so that you can be understood. Like my wife was going, "What is he saying? What is he saying?" And she understands a fair amount of Korean, but even the Korean people on the show were, "What? What did you say? What?"
Hmm.
And so he had probably the biggest transformation over the course of the show. I don't even know if that's debatable, but
Well,
and
even from not just the coaching, but from day one to what is it, 5 days? To day one to day five.
no, it was more than that. I think it was at least a week.
I thought it was only 5 days, and they covered like some episodes covered were like half a day because they would have
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
daytime date in the
yeah.
morning, and then they had the nighttime stuff, and
But
yeah.
I was pretty sure that last day was day 7.
Okay, so it was 5 to 7, somewhere around there. Either way, a very short amount of time for the progress he made because
Mhm.
all of a sudden near the end, I mean, the girl that was locked in on, what was it, John Lok or whatever, one of the girls,
Mhm.
one of the ones I thought was the most attractive was it was something with the chopsticks, where she was like, well, it's a pet peeve of mine if they don't hold chopsticks right, and he grabs it the way she says and starts making a joke, and she's laughing and he's laughing and everybody's laughing, and I'm like, yeah, why didn't y'all talk? Because obviously
Mhm.
y'all are playing off each other.
Well,
And,
that
and
was
that's
something.
human interaction, and that's
Mhm.
something that someone like him on the autism spectrum has trouble with. But then he was learning it as they went, and this show
Yep.
probably he grew so much, and he was playing off her, and then they were all laughing, and they were playing off each other, and he was the top pick for like 3 or 4 of the girls in the beginning, and
Uh,
he ended up blanking at the end
yep.
because
Yep.
of the way everybody just locked in and shifted off, and
Mhm. Well, that girl in particular, I called her B for resting B face because she is very pretty, especially when she smiles. But just the her mouth shape and the way she looks like she's angry all the time. But she wasn't. She was
well,
quite
she kind of
nice.
was because she locked in on the one guy, and and
But
she was probably the one he was least interested in.
this was
And
my counter example of comfort because remember kind of early on, um they were doing a speed dating thing and she went to talk to Tizamy guy because she said flat out, because I'm not interested in you and you, she didn't think, aren't interested in me, but I need someone to talk to. We can talk. Because even by that point, she knew they could talk and they could have a good, comfortable conversation. So I need to talk things out. I need an ear, a sympathetic ear, and I think you do too. And it was at that point she told him, "Call me Big Sis." I can't remember what the word is, but
yeah, yeah.
there's a colloquial familiar phrase for that, and because she was a year or two older than him as well, but and so through the show they would talk to each other of, hey, what's going on, you know, but that group dinner where he's doing the thing with the chopsticks, that should have been a moment of, hey, wait, he remembered that. Hey, wait, he's teasing, he's making a joke, he's making me
Hmm.
laugh. that should have been a moment
And they
for
still had a no whole nother day.
maybe.
Or that was even, was that before? No, that was during the overnight, right?
Yep, that was during
I
the
was about to say
overnight.
they could have picked each other for the overnight.
No,
And yeah,
but
it's crazy
so
how many
who knows what was
opportunities they
lost
had.
in
Yeah.
editing, but that should have been a moment of emotional maturity to say, hey, maybe I'm too fixated on this one person for whatever reason. We really get along. He makes me laugh. He I can come to him when I'm, crying because he he chose someone else. I think the girl he ended up with, wasn't that her roommate?
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's like, not only he left his first choice and he didn't come to me, but he went to my roommate, which for a lot of them, they didn't see that coming, and it was out of nowhere. It's out of left field, and like, what the heck, you know? And she goes to Tizamy guy to have that shoulder to cry on, literally, and have that sympathetic ear to talk to. Well, that's worthwhile. That is a worthwhile connection. Why not explore that?
Hmm.
But part of the problem for Tizamy guy is we've talked about this before of why do nice guys finish last? And he gave you a crystal clear gold star textbook example of, because a nice guy is just a different kind of sneaky fucker.
I don't think he was. I think he got in his own head because he was being nice in a way that
But
hurt
that's what
him.
we mean by
Yeah.
nice guy. So the guy that the girls were all fixated on, he wasn't trying to be nice in a manipulative way. That's just who he was.
Yeah, but I don't
And
think Tizami guy was either.
yeah,
I think he was thinking he was doing the right thing, and he even says, "I think I kicked myself in the ass at the end." You
exactly.
know.
But it wasn't.
Now the
He
guy who
wasn't
ended up
being
with the other girl,
manipulative. I don't.
that guy.
There's probably a better word for that. He wasn't being manipulative, but he did lie to her, and he
Hmm.
said as much, and he apologized after the fact. But by then it was too late. Is I lied to you. I was not being genuine because I was telling you what I thought you wanted and needed to hear.
Hmm.
And that's the
Well,
nice
the
guy
reason I don't say
finishing
it's this
last.
the sneaky fucker thing is because he did it at his own expense. The sneaky fucker will do it to try to get an inroad.
I think a lot of nice guys, that kind of nice guy though, they they don't have the sneaky fucker is first and foremost. The reason he's called that is because he's trying to get in your pants.
Hmm.
That is it. That is his primary
Should
purpose.
I go over the history of that for anybody who's first
Yeah,
listening?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the sneaky fucker is not a technical, but it is a technical biological term, made famous by Gad Saad, but it's been kind of making the rounds in evolutionary biology. Cuttlefish.
Mhm.
Cuttlefish, the alpha male will defend the females in the area, and apparently the lesser alpha males can make themselves look like a female to get by the alpha male, and he's vigilant in his duties as the sheepdog. If those of us that remember the coyote and the sheepdog from Looney Tunes, he's vigilant in his duties, but he's looking the other way, and so the sneaky fucker will look like a female, get past him, and then try to copulate with the females that are on the other side of him. And so when we use that term, it's the guy who comes in and is not manly, basically. We use the word masculine, not masculine, but makes friends and tries to get in the group and looks for the vulnerable opportunities when a female is maybe like in a breakup or
Doing the pickup artist stuff, the pickup
yeah,
artist techniques.
yeah, just basically getting the inroad by being feminine to be their best friend and then
Mhm.
looking to pick up the pieces whenever something goes wrong with them so that when they're vulnerable. Again, it's a manipulative technique trying to capitalize on her emotions at the right time instead of actually just being the man she needs.
The reason I put the nice guy who finishes last in that same kind of zone. There's a bit of a Venn diagram there. You can debate how much those circles overlap, but the reason I think it's a Venn diagram is because while he isn't being the player, he is playing a game to stay in her good graces and be the nice guy. So there's at least the option so that
Hmm.
she'll keep me in consideration. The problem is
He was so
one,
unskilled at it. He
well,
effed it all
one,
up. Yeah.
you're probably incredibly unskilled at it. Like this guy, boy, did he screw it up. And two, there we have varying degrees of skill to it, but we are social animals, and so we can all read nonverbal cues, and so you're going to run the risk that they're going to pick up on that lack of genuine action.
Hmm.
um which I think was kind of the double whammy here for him when he lied to her to, as he thought, protect her feelings. Is It was the double whammy of what is going on. She's looking at going, what is going on here? This doesn't make any sense. um but also it's incredibly awkward and you're terrible at this.
Hmm.
But then when he came back later, she was like, she said essentially, oh, you know what, maybe I didn't give him enough chance, maybe there's more to him than I thought there was. But by that point he'd already shot himself in the foot.
Yeah.
If he had
Which
just been that guy from the beginning, he might have stood a serious chance with her.
which let's give him a little credit though, because he did that with two females. The one he liked and the one who ended up with the person that she matched up with.
Mm.
And it was actually that moment that she started looking elsewhere because she was locked in on him and he did the oh yeah, this is not us, and he started being kind of a jerk on that date so she would not pursue him anymore. And he felt bad about it later. He actually this is the moment where the first person to cry on the show. He cried because of the way he treated this girl. And but it was the catalyst that got her to start opening her eyes to other people, which ultimately led to probably the best matchup in the show.
Mm-hmm.
So he did it to two people. Just one was in that I'm going to try to be there for you way, and the other one was I really don't want to be with this person, but she's after me. And
And
it
this was the other serious frustration with the show, is that the coaching was just, all right, let's meet your, you talk with the producers, all right, you're on the show now, you go to your relationship coach and you've got 6 weeks, and now you're going to go start the show, meet all the people. There should have been continuous coaching,
Mhm.
and this guy was the prime example of, all right, come here, let me call you, let me pull you aside, let's go sit down and have a drink, and buddy, come on, why did you do this?
I don't know.
Did you think about doing that?
I might have changed my opinion on that because it's like, so for what I do, I coach. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I prepare them for the sport, but then I let them go to the sport.
Hmm.
And I have nothing to do with it after that. And I hope what I did carries over throughout the season. And I think that was the style here. Was they were like, okay, so these are the things that are probably holding you back with dating. Let's work on those. Now let's put you in the wild, the semi-wild, the dating show. And so I kind of appreciate that, but at the same time, the reactions from the coaches kind of got annoying at some point. So it was maybe like do just the whole episode with the reality, quote unquote, reality TV part, and then at the end have some comments from the coaches or something like, "Hey,
Yeah,
we worked on this and they did better at that." And yeah.
that's a good point, because for for both these people in particular, but then the general audience, a an epilogue show of, hey, how do you think it went? Hey, I'm proud of you because look at your progress. Hey, why don't you work on these things in particular? Um,
Well,
that would have been great because there were times where the panel was yelling as they were watching the footage, and there was one in particular that really annoyed the crap out of me, which was when the guy we talked about earlier, the pink-haired girl, when they thought, oh, we've got a couple, and they were rooting for the couple, and when they started to separate, when the guy in particular started to pull away, they're yelling at him of, oh, you're overthinking it.
which
No,
is
he
which is
wasn't
why I think
overthinking.
I've changed my opinion on if they should have been coaching the whole time, because you could influence how the game
Yeah,
goes.
that's a good point.
Yeah, you can influence how the game goes, and realistically, when you leave the show, this is the problem with The Biggest Loser. You don't have Jillian, you
Mhm.
don't have all of those people with you, you don't have the gym, you don't have the dietitian that was there, you don't have all of that when you leave the show.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
basically, coaching them ahead of time and then leaving them to their own devices on the show was probably gonna guarantee a better end product.
But also why I think it would have been great to have an epilogue for all of the ones who didn't couple up, even the ones who did couple, but set that aside. But everyone else, it would have been nice to have an epilogue of, hey, meet with your coach again and talk about how things went, because the what I was yelling at the TV when the panel was criticizing, Jung Mok for saying we're not on the same wavelength and I want a serious relationship and I don't think that's you. They're saying, "Oh, you're overthinking it. Stop overthinking." That's not overthinking. That's just saying this is what I want.
It's not overthinking
Overthinking,
for his goal. His goal was a
exactly.
long-term relationship. If he was looking to say, okay,
Exactly.
can we just date after this and see how it goes, then he would have been overthinking. But yeah, it's
What he needed was help figuring out how to get there, how to achieve his goal, right? It's you know people go to you for coaching because they know what they want to do. I want to be better at this sport. I want to make it to the next level at this sport. How do I get there from a strength and conditioning standpoint? Okay, cool. I know what your goal is. Here's how we get there. And that is what most of these people needed. Is now some of them, I think, were kind of confused about what do they want. you
yeah,
know
yeah.
I think.
Which is why I wish, I mean, even like I said, they had the 15-minute dates, but I wish day one before they had initial impression votes,
Yes.
they should have done a speed dating
Yes.
where it's just going around in a circle and everybody gets with everybody for 5 minutes. I wish we would have had something like that, because even the 15 minutes was random and you could have ended up with anybody, or you could end up in one case the same person twice. And that was rigged because apparently they wanted those two people to be together. But I wish there was more opportunity for more people to interact with more people.
Mhm.
And these people locked in right away. And they made every decision based on that. And it's called a self-fulfilling prophecy for a reason. If I treat you a certain way, you're going to eventually be that way. So if I say you've got anger issues and I treat you like you have anger issues, eventually you're going to get angry with me.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to say, see, I was right. And the way these four girls locked in on the one guy and the three guys locked in on the one girl, they treated all the other options that way. Again, I was rooting for Fat Boy, the guy who loved to eat, because he actually opened himself up to the other girl and then closed
Mhm.
off again. Had he picked her for overnight, what would she have said? We don't know, because he picked the one girl he locked in on instead of the other girl he had a kind of interest in. And how would that
Yeah.
have gone? They could have hung out together for a whole night, maybe not as successfully as the ones that did, but it could have changed the whole game.
Yeah. Um, so switch to something completely random, but I found it very interesting, and maybe this gets us more into um differences in gender differences, and thus why cross-sex mind reading is so dangerous.
That's why
Um,
evolution of desire is up right there.
yep.
By the
So
knife that sliced the shit out of me when it fell off the shelf, and it was in the sheath when I went to grab it, and it slid out of the sheath as I grabbed it. And so basically, my ring saved the rest of my hand because it shaved off the whole
Whew,
side of my finger. Yeah,
owie.
yeah.
All right. So there was a moment in this show where the guy that um the four girls had fixated on, and he was essentially trying to let one of them down easy.
Hmm.
Be nice, but let her know I'm not interested in you.
And she took it as in he's left me hanging.
Well, I don't know if you're thinking the exact same moment I am, because my wife and I had to pause and go back and forth about this because she could not understand this and I didn't know how to explain it. And then they cut to the panel, and the panel was having the same issue with the girls going, ah, and the guys going, eh? Okay, so what he said to her was, if I'm fortunate enough to one day have a daughter, I hope she's like you.
Hmm. Yeah, but that's the girl he
The
picked.
Was it? I I
Yeah.
I was just thinking that this is weird because at the time he wasn't interested yet,
Yeah, no, yeah, that's the
right?
girl he picked because she was so independent and
Uh-huh.
so strong. And he said those things first, and he said, if I have a daughter, I hope she's like you.
The two girls on the panel and my wife thought that was an incredibly romantic compliment. And the young woman on the show seemed to take it that way. But he at the time was trying to say, you're very nice, but I'm not interested in you in that way right now.
Hmm.
Or no, I'm not interested in you in that way. Later it became, but set that aside. Me and the guys on the show were like, no, that's platonic. He's trying to let her down easy. He's saying, you're a really nice person. You know, and I didn't know how to explain this other than to say, um, when a guy, as I said earlier, when a guy is interested, that means he is sexually interested. Okay. If I say, I want to, if I say, oh, you're like my daughter, or I want, to have a daughter like you, that's like telling a girl, you remind me of my mom. I can't
Mm.
have sex with you if you remind me of my mom.
Oh, that okay, I can see your point now. Okay, yeah. But
So
again, we might have had translation issues, we might have had cultural issues, but
that's why I thought it was
see, my first thought,
weird that they ended up together. Because to me,
see, this
if
is where editing
there's like a
comes in
hard
because I
line
think
in the
that was one of the conversations that brought them together because you could also translate that to say, I want a daughter with you.
that was my wife's point
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
who's more like me than me? That if you tell me I want to have a child like you, then the woman is apparently immediately interpreting that as, I want to have a child with you.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I was
That,
like,
so that's how I took it. So again, I do have a slightly more feminine brain than most men in some ways. So yeah, that's exactly how I took it. And I was like, they're getting together. That was the moment I said it. I was like, they're getting together.
but at the time,
He was still with
she
Pink Hair Girl.
he was still fixated, not just with he was still fixated on, no, this is the person I'm choosing.
Yeah, but remember the editing because
Mm,
it was also that same setup, that same date setup where Pink Hair Girl comes in and he says, I'm not on the same wavelength with you. So where was the timeline
yeah,
with
which
these
came
things?
yeah,
Yeah.
which conversation came first?
We know what made the most drama, which is what they
Mm,
showed, but which conversation came first?
mhm.
But no, this is important because let's bring it back to how we started. We're making the transition from first attraction to actual relationship, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and you brought up we had a whole episode about why our marriages work. And you brought up the word values, right? You don't have to have all the exact same values, but you at least have to have a life trajectory that is somewhat in line, right? And that could be a lot of things. I mean, don't discount the little things. How uh, how do you want to have dinner with a family? Do you want to just like have that as your alone time and You do that. Okay, some couples work that way. Okay, do you want that to be we discuss our daytime? That's great for a lot of couples. Your sex life. We bring up how don't the hookup culture is ruining everything because everything's sex based or whatever. But if you're not aligned in your sex life, do you not think that's going to affect your marriage, right?
Hmm.
Or even a long-term relationship? Because yeah, maybe it's good at first, but you don't have an action plan for when it's not just the I walk in a room and I'm horny timeline, right? Because there's going to be a mismatch at some point. Well, how do you navigate that? You need to know this, and you need to be in line with this. Uh, you name something. I named two things. What's a thing that can down the road F everything up?
I think the one that pops into my head because of who and what we're talking about here was um self-centered pink-haired girl is
What are your
what
priorities?
what
Yeah.
is your how much do you prioritize you versus how much do you prioritize us? And
Hmm.
because you are
Yeah,
an
and that's
individual
important because I'm
human
going to add one
being,
to it. How much do you
yeah.
prioritize me? Because I don't want you to
Mm,
prioritize me either. I want you to prioritize us.
mhm.
Because if you do things for me that sacrifice us, that's going to ruin things down the line
That's a
too.
good point.
So it's not just being selfish, it's also being overly generous.
That's a good point too.
And I think
Um,
actually the second one is more so for guys because uh, the first one is more so for females, partly because of internet culture, partly just because of the slight uptick in neuroticism. Make me feel comfortable because that's important. But the guys who overdo that also sacrifice the future of the couple to make her happy.
well,
And that's a
the
big problem. I've seen many a professional athlete lose
mhm,
their job because they put her before career, but career was for both of them.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, the other couple that we haven't talked about much is a good example of that because you brought up the other guy that was interested in her
Everything was about her.
that was kind of not kind of, especially by the end, he was pretty
Stage
pathetic
five.
about it.
Stage five. Yeah.
Well, the other dude,
Was
me
the
and my wife
opposite
both had
end of the
problems with
spectrum.
because
Yeah.
so this is the guy when I first brought up this show several weeks ago. He was he's a good example of how childhood trauma sticks with you. And he was the fat kid. He was also the new kid because his dad got a job in Brazil. And so he got up and moved when he was a kid to Brazil. Completely new culture, completely new language. And he lived there for like 12 years. All right. So this manifested through his insecurity, manifested in pretty serious narcissism. And that was her problem with him is you're not paying enough attention to me. You're busy competing with the other guy who's after me too. Stop worrying about him and pay attention to me.
Hmm.
Now, they they ended up together in a way that could be complementary. That's the other word I would use is how complementary are you?
Hmm.
Okay? So
Yeah.
she
That.
also had guy issues. And so from a situation where she had a stalker and she's pretty neurotic, that adds to it. So she said, I can be very emotionally unstable. I need someone to help me be stable. And that was her justification was this guy I can be neurotic, I can be emotional, and he can take it. Well, is he going to take it because he's not paying attention to you and he's not interested? Because that's not going to last.
Yeah. That was my big thing because the other guy that could take it was the guy who just was like, "Hey, I'm just enjoying my ramen." Okay. That he was so chill. especially near the end, that he gave me vibes of a guy who can just like, I'm listening, honey. Yes, I'm here for you. I'll be there for you. And just go with the flow, and that's I think the guy she should have picked. But he she locked into the guy who kept going after her. And I think that's what she was looking for, but at the same time, I don't think it was what was best for her. Of course, we're making decisions from,
Yeah.
8,000 miles away, but it's
With who knows what editing and who knows what
yeah.
my wife knows enough to where there were times where I would point out, wait, what? Because something she said in that last episode when she was explaining why she didn't just leave alone, but why she did match with him was, I don't remember exactly what she said, but I remember the word she used because I had, wait, that's not good. And I rewound it so my wife could listen to it and say, yeah, I don't think that's a good translation, but I don't know what a better one would be. But she said she liked his indifference.
Hmm.
Indifference is a relationship killer, people. Whether you're talking about a romantic relationship or a platonic relationship,
It is
indifference is the relationship killer. And in fact, I think that's the word that I'm brain farting on his name, but like the relationship counselor specialist guru guy says that's the killer. If
Adam
a
Lane Smith.
Yeah, if a couple
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
in and there's indifference, I can work with anger. If they're at each other's throats, I can work with that.
Hmm.
Okay, we can fix that. If they come in and there's indifference, it's over.
Hmm. Well, and this is something I actually was discussing with someone not that long ago, but it is I'm sure he's touched on it, but I've seen it all over because I follow these kind of things, is one of the biggest indicators that things are on their way out the door is we don't even fight. It's not that we fight, it's that we don't even fight. I'm sure I actually think Peterson has talked about this too, because one of his big points is fight in front of your children
Mm.
so they can see how it resolves, right?
Hmm.
So they learn how couples can resolve a fight as well as that this thing exists. You're not just hiding it from them. You're not sheltering them from it. And when couples stop fighting is actually one of the first signs that things are on their way out the door. And that's indifference. When you stop fighting, it's because you don't care. You fight for things you care for, right? Now, granted, that can still lead to an end, depending on the fight, but at the same time, at least it leads to an honest end, where indifference leads to, well, you just don't care anymore. I don't care anymore, so see ya. And if you enter a relationship that is your number one criteria, you need counseling, my friend.
Hmm.
You need counseling. She needs counseling, and we get just a little bit of a backdrop of her background, but the fact that he didn't care, he didn't even remember what she told him, that's already, I mean, she should have told everybody on the show that and saw who remembered.
Hmm.
That would have been like the test. I am on this thing as a last ditch effort to be in a couple because I've tried everything else and now I'm on a reality TV show, right? Do it with everyone and see what sticks. Throw shit at the fan. Come on.
And it's not just that, you know, he couldn't remember the exact words or he couldn't remember the
He didn't remember
details.
anything.
He didn't remember squat. He just started making stuff up.
Yeah,
And she's
he didn't even remember the premise of the discussion. Like you said, he was
Yeah.
making stuff up and it was like all about him actually. He was making stuff up about him.
Well, that was something my wife cued in on is the way his insecurity manifested with his narcissism is that he cared more about, that's why I call him the bro. He cared more about what the other guys thought and where he stood and what the pecking order was in relationship to the other guys. The girls, even the one, and I think that was a big reason she actually did end up choosing him, is because he was never interested in anyone else. So that's a that's a big deal. to a woman is, oh, he's he's interested in me and just me, but he didn't really express that at all.
He did express that
Well, he expressed that I'm interested in you. He did not have a
he did not
way. He did not do
demonstrate
the
it.
things. He did
He
not
said
demonstrate.
it. Yeah,
Yes.
he said
Yeah.
it. He did not demonstrate it. Now, this is the problem with dating shows is yes, she was attracted to the fact that he only locked in on her the whole time. But what's the freaking point of a dating show if you
No.
lock in right from the beginning? I mean, to me, it defeats the purpose because you're
Mhm.
getting, what is it, 14 people that don't know each other together. Get to know everyone. Now, you might have some physical deal breakers. So I don't know what Koreans look for in people, but pink-haired girl had this thing with her mouth that threw me off when she would talk. The way her mouth moved threw me off. So I might have originally said, okay, that I can't talk to her and get to know her without looking at that mouth the whole time. You know, everybody has these little ticks, right? How they eat their food, like with the chopsticks with the one girl and stuff. So you're gonna initially eliminate a few people, but at the same time, you're not gonna eliminate everybody.
Mhm.
Get to know everyone at the same time. They were all attractive people. Every single person on this show, for considering they were eternal singles, right? They were
Yeah.
all attractive people. Go with it.
Well, that is the upside. The positive takeaway is you're eternal singles, and yet almost all of you had at least someone on that show who was at least momentarily interested in you, attracted to you. And then this was broadcast on Netflix, hundreds of millions of people across the globe. How many people around the world do you think looked at you and said, "No, I'm totally into you. You're great.
Hmm.
I would totally date you." So you don't have to be an eternal single. And that was kind of my rant when I first brought up the show is part of the problem, especially for the girls. There were some of them like the music girl who had a serious abusive childhood, and so she did have trust issues when it comes to guys. But a lot of the girls, they just didn't put themselves out there.
Hmm.
And now granted, there is an element of a female neurosis that makes that more difficult just in general, but a lot of this was just you put young people in a room together and nature will take its course.
This is true. This is true. No
We
matter how awkward you are, eventually
mhm.
nature will take its course. Yeah.
And bring it back to Super Tismy guy. Super duper awkward. Definitely from when we first met him, but even from day one, he was still pretty awkward. But by the last day, people were slapping him on the back and saying, you know what? You're a fun dude,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, because just being around, being in a friendly social environment, he really started to come out of his shell. Do you have any other thoughts before I get to my final thought on the show? Was there anything
Uh,
else in particular you wanted to talk about?
no, I think I had some thoughts, but the conversation went away from them. So yeah, I wanted to get back on the making the initial date into a relationship.
Mm.
Uh, but I'm gonna go ahead and let you have your final thoughts.
Well,
Well,
okay,
yeah.
that leads. I think that lends itself to what my last thought on this, which is,
I had a
but
third on my considerations. I
mm,
said, oh, because I brought up, sex and everything. How does the person respond to your other relationships? So
like your
this
non-romantic relationships,
your
just your
non-romantic relationships, your family. Do they try to pull you from your family? Do they? So we talked about
yeah,
the pink
yeah.
hair girl. It's all about me. It's all about me. It's all about me. Uh, this is the biggest red flag for me with females. Well, because I'm a male. With the opposite sex is, are they trying to pull you from your other relationships. And that could be friends, that could be family, that could be anything. It could be work. If you're a hard worker and they try to pull you from your work, that's actually a red flag for me. Uh, but especially family. If you have how do your family traditions align?
Mm,
Oh, we always have Christmas together. Well, now we're a couple. Is always now? Do we do Christmas there? Do we do Christmas at mine? Do we alternate?
yeah.
Or are we in a situation where we can do both? Do we do one in the morning, one in the afternoon? Do we do one on Christmas Eve? Do we do one on Christmas? And then we alternate that. So that negotiating process between how you navigate your other relationships. Okay, so I got a friend that as soon as he gets in a serious relationship, I know he's in one because he doesn't respond to anything. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden I'm playing therapist, 6 months later.
Yeah.
That's one of my boys. And it's like maybe the problem is you keep finding these girls that pull you away and you keep letting it happen. So your responsibility is on you, bro, that you can't talk to Sam for 6 months because of girl. That's a sign. If you can talk to me and hang out with me every once in a while and still have the relationship, hey, maybe I can meet y'all somewhere and we can all have drinks together, that kind of thing. If someone pulls you away from the rest of your life, that's a red flag for me.
Yeah.
And so
It's
it's
understandable if you're in a
unsustainable. It's
if it
unsustainable. Yeah.
it's understandable if you are in a brand new relationship and you're like, eh, I don't
Well,
think I'm ready to introduce you to my friend group yet. In the same way that
but if you're
if
looking
you,
again, we're making the transition to long-term relationship.
yes, exactly.
If you don't have that moment where I want to introduce you to my friends, there's your sign.
That is in the same way that if the person never wants to meet your parents, that's a big red flag.
Hmm.
It's
Or
like,
or even on your part, if you don't want to introduce them to your parents.
hmm yeah, big red flag. So speaking of transitioning from a couple of dates into an actual relationship, one of the things that was hilariously sad on the show that I think is a we can spin into a positive, helpful takeaway is self-sabotage. There were
Oh gosh.
several moments of pretty serious self-sabotage,
Well, that's
and
part of being
how do you
eternally
not
single.
do that? Yes.
Because again, if you're a semi-attractive person, which everybody in the show was, and good job, good education, all of these things, you are 100% to blame for your eternal single. You are 100% to blame.
Mhm. And I don't know how many of the self-sabotage ease, except for Super Tizamy guy, which we've already talked about, because he recognized it, he talked to the camera about it, and then he went and he apologized to the girl about it, about the self-sabotage.
He was the most
Unfortunately,
self-aware person on the show.
exactly.
Yeah.
But there were a couple other times, Big Boy, Foodie, who he so this one was really sad and frustrating to me because so um the other dating show does this too, is they'll start off with a group and then they'll bring in someone extra, to spice things up, and it's annoying to me, but whatever. And so uh there was there were everyone had gone off on these group dates and he was the odd man out. And so he was just sitting around the little resort area that they were in all by himself. And then he gets a text that says, go to this place. He gets a text from the producers that says, go to this place. He goes there and there's a new girl that has been brought into the show. And initially the icebreaker was weird and awkward. And it's like, oh, geez, people.
Which is funny
But
because we talk about racism in America. His initial deal breaker was she spoke Japanese.
yeah,
I
yeah,
thought she was Japanese, so she's out.
yeah.
But
Well, I
he
mean,
ultimately got along with her.
they have a
Yeah.
they have a reason. But anyway, the point is once they got past the really awkward icebreaker, they hit it off. And he had been interested in this person, and he said, "Well, now I think I'm interested in her. She's very interesting to me."
He put
And
her as his final pick.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the
But he did
reason
nothing to lead up to it unless we
exactly.
didn't get any of
E-
the video. Unless we didn't
exactly.
get any of the video. Yeah.
So, well, we did see a couple of clips, and my wife was mad about that. Of, hey, what did they say there? You showed them talking there. What did they say? Anyway, but I think the reason they hit it off is because there was no expectation.
Hmm.
He thought, well, I'm the odd man out. I'm all alone. I'm gonna make myself some food. I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna take a nap, and then all of a sudden, wait, what? Go here? Okay. Wait, what? New person? And and it's just you and me, and we're stuck here for however long, and we're just gonna talk. Then the second time
Oh yeah, he got awkward.
they went off together, they had a little mini date, and he got inside his own head so much that he self-sabotaged, and she was also interested, but much like the med student guy who was like, no, I've got a plan, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. He was like the exact opposite of, he was really neurotic and had no plan. So he kept like rapid firing, changing the subject of, well, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And, if we get together, how do we make our schedules work? And you live here and I live here and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude, take a breath and just talk. Have
Hmm.
a conversation. Ask a question, let her answer. Maybe there's a follow up. So that was his self sabotage, is he got in his own head so much that he overwhelmed her just the second time they were alone together. I don't know if you're that kind of a person. I don't know how you not don't do that, but I'm not sure he ever even recognized what he'd done.
Yeah, and this is actually a big thing for me, and this is something I've had to learn over the years. And if anybody wants a little extra help on this, I actually recommend a channel called Charisma on Command.
Mm,
Very decent. They've had their turmoil over the years because apparently there was some fight between the two owners of it. But he had a panel on with two a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And one of the things they talked about, which really resonated with me, which is something I learned on my own, but it took me 20 years to learn it, where I just heard it in a probably 20-minute bit of this panel, is learning how to be receptive. So actually opening your brain to the inputs that are coming in. And a lot of these people that were having trouble dating, that's their biggest problem, is they don't read the person they're with.
mm,
They just talk, try to impress, like the guy who was competitive, try to impress your person. The other guy who was overly, hey, what do I need to do this? Well, he would have known what to do if he just read the audience, right? Uh, and there's all kinds of techniques you can use, and this is a skill. This is not something well, it is something you're born with, but we lose it over time because what people don't realize about the brain is you have too many synapses when you're born. And actually, growing up is a narrowing down
mm,
of how those connections take place and creating heuristics of the environment and predictive models. The brain becomes a predictive tool. The problem is if you lose the ability to take in inputs, then you lose accuracy in your predictions. And these people don't have accuracy in their prediction of how the person's going to respond to what they say. So they just start talking like this guy did. A good little technique one of them brought up was they had all kinds of things that were very complicated. And he said, here's one to, and I tried this the other day. He said, here's one to kind of be a lead up to all those other techniques. Start brushing your teeth with your left hand. And I'm
mm.
ambidextrous. And you know how hard that was? my right hand, the first day I did it, my right hand started going twitch, 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 twitch towards my mouth, like involuntarily as I was brushing with my left hand. It's not because I'm not coordinated with my left hand, it's because I've not done it. And so just tools to be receptive of your surrounding. Mindfulness meditation is another one where you're actually focusing on how the breath feels coming in your nose and then out going out. Things like that are all very beneficial.
I was
But
going to ask what I was looking for is because I can't remember where I put the book and I haven't started reading it yet. But I got it after listening to her talking on Williamson, and I'm brain farting on her name and the title of the book. And
yeah, I
you
think
know
I
what
know
I'm
which
talking
one you're
about?
talking about.
And one of the things that made me go to make me perk up
The
is like
one that
within
was talking about doing art and
exactly
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is she referenced McGilchrist like a dozen times
Hmm.
in that hour long interview. And one of the things she talked about is activating your right hemisphere.
Hmm.
And I think she attributed this to McGilchrist as well. Is she said we are culturally, collectively, we act as if we've had a right hemispheric stroke.
Hmm. Yeah, that's one of his main points is the more modern society gets, the more we shift to less left hemisphere. Because, okay, so here's a great example. Language is mostly located in the left hemisphere because it's a predictive model, right? So language has a structure, language is predictable.
That's
One
how
of
the
the
large language models work.
but also just think of speed reading. If you one of the techniques for speed reading is you look at the spaces between the letters because your brain will automatically put together the word. So you don't have to look at every individual letter to speed read. You look at the spaces in between and your brain puts together the as you're going so you can read twice as fast or three times as fast. Uh, it's the same thing behind those little memes that says Fet's luck. You read that wrong, right? It's the same thing because you look at it and your brain already has a predictive model because you did read it wrong. And that's left hemisphere. Your right hemisphere is actually better at inputs. It's better at actually knowing what's coming in. And uh, I always talk about my training. The way I train is right hemisphere training because I'm like, how did the ground feel when you're doing your squat? How did the ground feel? They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, do I need to put more pressure on my heels or my ball of the foot? I'm like, how did the ground feel? They're like, well, I felt it on the heel. And I'm like, okay, so I want you to feel
Well, and the reason
this
I brought
pressure
that up
here. Yeah.
is wouldn't that then also apply to social as well as the
Yes, these things
physical?
have transference, which
Mm.
is in skill development, you want to look for transference, right? What underlying abilities actually transfer from one thing to the other? And the human factors people in skill development will say abilities can't be trained, but me as a person, I will fight that. Abilities can be trained, or else we wouldn't be putting muscle mass on our athletes. But the the underlying abilities can be trained. You may have a genetic potential, but that doesn't mean it can't be trained, right? And I do tend to be more right-brained and but also that makes it hard to focus on other things. So there's trade-offs. So if you're an engineer, be left-brained all day long. If you work with complex systems like I do, you want to shift that over to the other side because you have to be receptive. Now, dating, there's another person across the table from you. It's not just you.
Hmm.
So that engineer mind, and this is the thing that Tism guy did so well over those 7 days or so, is he shifted his thinking to how is this person reacting to what I'm doing versus what am I doing?
And you saw that the first several days is that he would glitch out is
Hmm.
because as his coach put it, it's he's gotten better at talking to people, but he has to know what to say first. He makes a script. So when things go off script, which they're going to do because the other person has a say in the script when you're actually talking to another human being, he go and he blue screen his brain would blue screen of death.
Well, it's the old. have you ever had a discussion with somebody and they ask you a question and you respond to it, but then they respond to that response with something that had nothing to do with your response?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's the old, I thought this, so I'm going to base an argument about this, but that was something that was never said or done.
Well, so let's as an example and as a helpful hint, hopefully for anyone who struggles with this, I think probably I'm trying to think of the timeline, but I think one of the big things that helped Mr. Tism was having Big Sis to talk to.
Hmm. Well,
Is it was
also
practice.
the fact that he just wasn't, his success didn't carry and he had to adapt.
Yeah. Now, if he didn't have, and he's not going to have going forward, so using him as a specific example that hopefully someone else can think of, well, I can't do that, but maybe I can do this, is it occurred to me um because I brought up the person whose name I still can't remember because I still can't find her book. Um, One of the things she mentioned is to unlock her right hemisphere, she paints,
Hmm.
like just to paint. She said she has literally thrown away hundreds of paintings. If she really likes something, she keeps it. But most of the time, it is just the activity of creating. Well, this guy is an engineer, but he's a 3D modeler.
Mm.
I think something that he could try, that someone like that, is put the computer away, dude. Get out a Sketchpad. All right. Instead of 3D rendering something, draw it. I don't care
Hmm.
if it's crap. Just draw it. Just focus on I'm going to create this scene and do it.
Yeah, and that's one of the challenges we're going to have going forward with AI and stuff is uh coding is very language based, right? Coding is a language by nature, right? Uh, but taking nature and putting it on paper, or like you said, with painting, or just taking in your surroundings is a completely different skill set. And we're going to see what comes out of this because well, pop music is a great example. Pop music, one of the reasons people like it is because it's predictable. It's comfortable. You can put any words in most of your pop songs and it would still work. You don't even have to listen to lyrics. You just have a beat that you fall asleep to. That's why I like metal music because it thrives on discord. It gets you, the best ones will lull you into a sleep and then boom, hit you and take you somewhere else. And you have to open up your mind to it, which makes people uncomfortable. Horror movies. Now they're cheesy now, but back in the day, they used to be a thing that took you out of your comfort zone. And the roller coasters, they take you out of your comfort zone. And that's why we love them. But we're losing that. We're losing that big time in today's society. And now in the dating game, comfort was important, but they had to leave their comfort zone to get there, right? You have to expose yourself in some ways, emotionally, verbally, uh, and it's that portion of it where you go from this is me and this is how I do things to this is me with somebody else. That's not comfortable at all. And when you find somebody who it blends so well with that it feels like a different kind of comfort, that I think is the secret sauce, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that made me uncomfortable to go into, but at the same time I found something that is more comfortable than the comfort I had before. Because okay, so let's go to Abused Girl, right? She was comfortable in pushing all men away.
Mm-hmm.
But now she found comfort in a man that she really felt romantic relationships towards. Now, again, we don't know the long-term implications of it, but at the same time, that was a step that needed to be taken to be just an eternal single to the person leaving the show with another guy, with another person, right? Is comfortable was pushing away all men. Getting comfortable with a man took a massive, massive mental step. Now, pink haired girl, comfortable is me, 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 me. She needs to find what's on the other side of us, which is going to be a big, uncomfortable step. It's what we call leap of faith, right? It's going to be jumping from one building to the other if you're parkour, or it is the step that some of these people couldn't take. Tism guy actually being outgoing and funny. He wasn't that way in the beginning.
Mhm.
Had he got that on day two, he might have left with somebody.
No,
Uh,
that's a good point. But then, so going forward, don't let those skills atrophy. When there's gonna, when your coworkers are like, hey, we're gonna go do this thing tonight or this weekend, don't be that guy who always says, no, I've got stuff to do. No, go.
mhm.
Go.
Yeah, well, and from an introverted person, yeah, I do like social interactions, but it takes a lot for me to do it, and it takes a lot to recover from it. But you got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it because we also have a need for belonging. It is it is the thing social roles theorists have absolutely correct. We have a need to belong to our tribes, our people, and our tribe is 330 something million people right now as the United States of America. And if you're global and you have the money to do that, even more. So it's we have a need for belonging, and yes, there's a comfort in just myself because who's not comfortable in their, well, let me rephrase that because severely depressed people aren't comfortable in their own head, but who are you more comfortable with other than yourself? And if you just dive into that, you're going to be lonely. And now you're not comfortable anymore. So it's one of those exercise is hard, but being fat is hard. Pick your hard,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Relationships are hard. Being lonely is hard. Pick your hard.
It's a it's a good place to leave it off. If you've got a particular issue or technique that works, comment below. Or if you've tried the things we've talked about and it's like, yeah, I've tried this, don't work, comment below, and we'll see if we can't think up some other techniques. Speaking of comments, we do have quite a few, but I figure let's leave them for next time because they're hilariously stupid and not relevant to today. But we are a small enough channel. We do read every comment, and we're going to get into some politics and current events next time, and
Yeah,
we'll
except
read
we're going
the
to do Wheel of
comments
Time
then.
next time, and we have to talk
Well,
relationships again because
next,
we talked
yes.
relationships today, and that's going to be the pattern from here on out. So
So next time Wheel of Time, but
maybe okay.
next
So
social
Wheel of
episode.
Time.
Yeah.
Let's do first meetings of couples.
Hmm.
So Perrin and Fail is a good first meeting.
Rand
Uh,
and Min is a good one.
Rand and Min is a good first meeting. Actually, that scene where Rand is dancing in Barillon and Moiraine comes and dances with him, and then Nynaeve comes and dances with him. That's a good scene because we talk about awkward. Yeah. What's another good first meeting that just has awkward written all over it?
Moiraine and Lan from New Spring.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's not a romantic relationship, but it is a long-term friendship
Hmm. Yeah,
relationship.
we've used that as a contrast before, and I think that's a good one.
Hmm. Maybe Matt and Tuan,
Yeah, that's a good one.
because
So we'll
it took an open mind for that one to work, as we just
Well, there's
discussed.
also an interesting parallel between Matt and Tuan because he knows he's fated, at least,
Mm.
once he hears, and Rand and Min, because Min knows she's fated. And
Yep.
so there's an interesting parallel between those two.
And I think Tom and Warren is a good one. because we talked about parallel goals. Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
that actually, yeah, that there is an interesting rabbit hole to go down. So we'll talk about those first meetings because we talked about the relationships in general and we kind of skimped out on the first meeting, which is what today was all about, is that first meeting and the awkwardness and okay, but then what?
Yeah. Yeah. How does it play out? Rand and Elaine, the first meeting there.
Yep. Awkward but genuine. Yeah, that's a good one
Mhm.
too. All right, well, we'll talk about that next time, which is our Wheel of Time episode, and then next social political, we'll get back into politics and current events and talk about the silly comments from our last social episode. We'll
All
see y'all
right.
then.
Later.